to building apps for Microsoft Teams. So, myself, Smita Nachan, I am having 12 plus years of experience in SharePoint and Office 65, currently associated with Tieto Every company as a lead software engineer. I have done couple of Microsoft certification and I am author of one book. So, here are some of my social handlers by which you can get in touch with me. So agenda for today we are going to introduce you to Microsoft Teams. Then we will give an introduction about what are the Microsoft Teams apps, how do you create an app for Microsoft Teams, and when should you choose to build a custom Microsoft Teams app, and then we will have some short knowledge check. So let's begin with the introduction part. Yeah. So Microsoft Teams is an extensible platform. You can create your own custom apps and you can put your app at the heart of your Microsoft at your organization collaboration platform. Apps for Microsoft Teams can be as simple or as complex as you need, from sending notifications to channels or users to complex multi-surface apps incorporating conversational bots, natural language processing, and embedded web experience. You can build apps for an individual, your team, your organization, or for all Microsoft Teams users everywhere. So, some common scenarios that a custom Microsoft Teams app can help with are proactively send information to teams from an external system and allow users to take action on that information from inside the Teams client. Then the second one is the embed your website or web app directly in the Teams client. Then allow your users to quickly look up information in another system and add the results to a conversations in Teams. Then you can trigger a workflows or and processes based on a conversations in Teams and preserving the context of the conversation. So in this bootcamp, we will explore how Microsoft Teams can be extended with your own custom apps. You will learn about your options for distributing your app and the fundamental of what makes up a custom app for Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams can be extended in a variety of ways. In this bootcamp, we will also learn about each of those ways and what scenarios they are typically used for. The goal is to help you determine if building a custom app on the Microsoft Teams platform is right for us, and if so, then please help us to choose the right extensibility points and distribution model to make our app successful. So let's see what are Microsoft Teams apps. An app built on the Microsoft Teams platform extends the Microsoft Teams client, that is a web, mobile, and desktop with web services you host. The team platform provides a rich and flexible set of extensibility points, UI constructs, and API for you to take advantage of while building your own apps. So, your app can be as simple as embedding your existing website within a tab for your team or a fully featured, multifaceted app engaging your users across the entire span of Teams client. You may choose to integrate an existing app or create a new experience built entirely for Teams. Within Microsoft Teams platform, you can increase your services with context specific information available from the various Microsoft Teams APIs, like information about the team or channel your app is installed in or messages your app was triggered from. You can create apps for an individual users, a team, your entire organization, or publish your app to the public app store for everyone to use. So let's look about what makes up a Microsoft Teams app. Apps built on Microsoft Teams platform consist of three primary pieces. The one is the Microsoft Teams client, your Teams app package, and your web services. So let's go through one of them. So the Microsoft Teams client provides the extension points and UI elements your app will use to engage your users. Then the second one is your Teams app package. So it is the package that is installed in Microsoft Teams. It contains a small icon, a large icon, and a manifest JSON file. The manifest file contains the metadata for your app, like the name of the app, the developer's name, and many more things, which can be extensibility points your apps uses, like tabs and messaging extension, and pointer to your web services that power your apps, like the ID for your bot or your tabs URL. The last one is your web services hosted by you, providing the APIs and logic that power your app. It is important to keep in mind that Microsoft Teams platform is not a hosting service. The web services powering your app must be hosted by you and accessible by HTTPs over the internet. So let's discuss where can the Teams client be extended. There are multiple places where the Microsoft Teams client can be extended to allow users to interact with your app. So, depending on your scenario, you may choose to focus on a single extension point like a personal conversational bot or combine multiple extension points. So, let's discuss about the teams, channels, and group tabs. So, it contents of this conversational bots, then configurable tab, webhooks, and connector. So, teams, channels, and group chats allow multiple people to collaborate. Apps that extend context may themselves available to all the members of the group or conversation. So, typically focusing on enabling additional collaborative workflows or unlocking new social interactions. Your app will have access to APIs, allowing it to get information from the members in the conversation, the channels in the team, and metadata about the team or conversation. So they can be expanded with conversational bots for interacting with members of the conversation through chat and responding to events like new member being added or channel is being renamed. So all the conversations with a bot in this context are visible to all the members of the channel or group. So you will need to ensure the conversation is relevant to everyone. The second thing is configurable tabs for providing a full screen embedded web experience configured for the channel or group chat it is installed in. So all members will interact on the same shared web app. So stateless single page app experience is typical over here. The next thing and the last thing is webhooks and connectors. So for enabling external services to post messages to the conversation, you can take advantages of cards and card action to create rich, actionable messages. So webhooks provides a simple, unauthenticated, one way method to post messages to a channel, while connectors provide a slightly more robust back and forth experience. So let's see about the personal apps. Sorry. So personal apps are the portion of your Teams app focusing on interactions with a single user. The experience is unique to each individual user. This portion of your app can be pinned to the left navigation rail enabling one-click access for your users. So personal apps can contain conversational bots and personal tabs. So conversational bots having one-to-one conversation with the user, because this is a private conversation. If your app need to have a multi-turn conversation with a user or provide a notification relevant only to a single user, it is typically best to have that interaction in a personal app. So the personal tabs provides a full screen embedded web experience. Messages are the heart of collaboration in Teams with the messaging extension action command. Your app can allow users to invoke your app's API from a message, sending the contents of the message to your app for processing or action. Your app can respond by presenting a form, for example, a task module, to the user to collect more information and sending a reply to the original message or sending a message directly to a user. Then your app can help create craft more effective message by enabling them to search or take a action in an external system and insert these results in a rich structure format and complete with the actionable buttons. So there are three ways your app can help users to create better messages. The first one is message extension search commands. The second one is message extension link unfurling. And the third one is the message extension action commands. So message extension search commands, which allowing them to quickly search an external system, preview the results of that search, then insert the result into the chat as a rich card. Then the messaging extension link unfurling, which allows your app to monitor web domains you are interested in. When a URL containing that domain is pasted into the compose message box, your app's API will be invoked, allowing you to add a rich card to the message with additional information about the item being linked to. Then the messaging extension action commands, which presents user with a model from a task module, submit the results of the form to your app, then either insert the message into the conversation directly, or create a part of message the user can edit before sending to conversation. In addition to extensibility points, the Microsoft Teams platform provides flexible UI elements for apps to take advantage of. So these elements allow you to create a rich experiences that feel native to the Teams client. Cards are user interface containers defined by JSON schema that can contain multiple properties and attachment. They can contain formatted text, media, controls like drop-down boxes and radio buttons, and buttons that trigger card action. So card action can send payloads to your app's API, open a link, initiate authentication flow, or send messages to conversations. The the Teams platform supports multiple types of cards, including adaptive cards, hero cards, thumbnail cards, and many more. They can be combined into cards collection and displayed in a list or carousel. So the task model allows you to create model pop-up experiences in your Teams application. So inside the pop-up, you can run your own custom HTML or a JavaScript code and show an iframe such as a YouTube or Microsoft Stream video or display an adaptive card. They are especially useful for initiating and completing tasks or displaying rich information like videos or Power BI dashboards. A pop up experience is often more natural for users initiating and completing tasks compared to a tab or a conversation based bot experience. So let's see about deep links. So your app can create URL deep links to help navigate your user throughout your app and the team client. You can create a deep link for most entities within a Teams, and some like a new meeting request allow you to pre-populate information using a query string in the URL. So for example, your conversational bot could send a message to a channel with a deep link to a task module that results in a card being sent as a one-to-one message to a user that in turn contains a deep link to certain a new meeting with a specific user at a certain date and time. So use deep links to connect across the various extension points available to your app, keeping your app in a correct contents at all the times. So let's look about this web content pages. A web content page is a web page you host that can be embedded in a tab or a task module. To enable your web page to be embedded in a Microsoft Teams client, it must be hosted on an HTTPS. Be able, I think, can you please mute Siddharth? Someone is there. Be able to embedded in an iframe by the Teams client. Include the Microsoft Teams JavaScript client SDK and invoke the SDK's initialize method on page load. A Microsoft Teams app then is a collection of web services hosted externally to Microsoft Teams that take advantage of the extensibility points and UI elements made available through the Microsoft Teams platform. Now let's see how to create an app for Microsoft Teams. So creating and distributing an app built on the Microsoft Teams platform involves deciding what to build, building your web services, creating an app package, and distributing that package to your target end users. It will up to an organization administrators to decide who can access and install your app, and it will be up to users to install your app in any particular context. So let's look at each of those steps in a bit more details. So first one is, let's see how to design your app. The most important step in creating a successful app for Microsoft Teams is choosing the right combination extensibility points and UI element to take advantage of. You should spend a good deal of time understanding the problem you are trying to solve with your app and mapping your solution across the various ways user can interact with your app in Microsoft Teams client. Yeah, a conversational bot that works very well in a one-to-one chat may not work at all as per as part of a group chat or channel conversation. So here is a recap of what's available for you and some scenarios they are best suited for you. So you can accomplish many tasks in more than one way. Choosing the right tool for the job will make for a much better user experience. So let's see about the messaging extension search commands. So they are very useful for allowing users to search an external system and then share the results of that search within Teams. With cards and cards action, you can richly format the results of that search and allow users to perform actions on the result without leaving the Microsoft Teams client. The second one is the messaging extension action commands. So they are great for collecting information from your user in a single place, then sending that information to your web services. They excel in a scenarios where you need to create a record of some kind or collect more than a few pieces of information as a part of single transaction. Then we have a tabs in group channels that provides a shared canvas for multiple people to collaborate. You should add this to your app if you have got information or services that are applicable to a group of people. We need to keep in mind that everyone is working from the same canvas. Your page should be stateless and operate as a single page app. Then let's see tabs in a personal apps. So tabs in a personal apps allow for a personal web-like experience. They are typically best for hub scenarios like item assigned to me or things I have created. They can also be useful for static content like help or about pages. Then we have a conversational bots in groups and channel to help to add additional information to a conversation that is useful for everyone or at least most involved. They can be used to proactively add relevant information to the conversation or respond to user requests. For example, let's say, hey bot, create a poll for wherever you should go to lunch. So typically, they should not be used for multi-turn conversations. Use a task module to collect the information or move the conversation to a one-to-one chat instead. They insert the results back into the original conversation. Then the next one, we have a conversational bots in personal apps. So they can enable incredibly diverse workloads, Q&A bots, and bots that initiate workflows in other system. Bots that tells jokes and bots that take notes are just a few examples. So just remember to consider if a conversation based interface is the best way to present your functionality. Then we have a web hooks and connectors. So they are useful to allow users to subscribe to a channel to notification message for an external system. The best apps will typically take advantage of more than one extension point. For example, let's say your organization wants you to allow people to submit suggestions for improvements. You should create an app with a messaging extension search command to find and share existing suggestions. Add an action command to allow users to create and update suggestions. A channel tab so a team can see all the suggestions assigned to them, and a personal tab so a user can see all the suggestions they have submitted in the past. Add a conversational bot powered by natural language processing and machine learning, allowing users to perform complex queries across the suggestions, and you have got a full featured, fully integrated Teams app. Let's see how to prepare your development environment. So, at a minimum, you will need access to an Office 65 organization with custom app uploading enabled. If you don't have one, you can obtain a development organization by signing up for the Office 65 developer program. You will get a link over for that on a Google. So you will also need a way to deploy and host your web services. So for local development, you can use tunneling service like ngrok, but the production you will want to deploy your services probably to a cloud service provider like Azure. You can use on-premises infrastructure to host your web service, but they will be publicly accessible and not behind a firewall. So now let's see how to select your development environment. So developers have multiple options when building a Microsoft Teams apps. The community-based human generator for Microsoft Teams, which is also known as Teams, scaffolds a project once the developer has answered a few questions for the type of Microsoft Teams app they are building. So the Microsoft Teams toolkit enables you to create custom Teams app directly within the Visual Studio Code environment. The toolkit guides you through the process and provides everything you need to build, debug, and launch your Teams apps. The Microsoft Teams toolkit enables you to create custom Teams apps directly within the Visual Studio integrated development environment that we called as an IDE also. The Microsoft Teams toolkit guides you through the process and provides everything you need to build, debug, and launch your Teams app. So now let's see how to build your web services. Once you have decided how users are going to interact with your apps, it is time to build the web services to power it. Depending on what you are creating, Teams provides various SDKs, templates, code samples, and generators to help you to get started, including of the first one is the Bot Framework SDK for messaging extension and conversational tabs. Then the second one is Teams JavaScript client SDK for tabs and other content pages. The third one is Human Generator for building apps in Node.js. The fourth one is a set of open source controls for your web content pages, Fluent UI. And the fifth one is ready for production app templates. So you need to remember you will need to host your web services in a way that makes them publicly accessible over the internet. So typically in a cloud service provider like Azure and server up your content over HTTPS. So now let's check how to create your app package. Web services up and running, you will need to create an app package that can be distributed and installed in Microsoft Teams. The app package contains two icons and a JSON manifest file describing the metadata for your app, the extension points your app is using, and pointers to the services empowering those extension points. When creating your app package, you can choose to create it manually or use App Studio, which is an app inside Teams that helps you to make Teams apps. So App Studio will guide you through creating your app manifest and you can help you and it can help you to register your bot with bot framework. It also contains a card designer to help you visually create cards and card actions and send examples to yourself in Teams. So now let's see how to distribute your apps. So you have three options for distributing your custom Microsoft Teams app depending on your target audiences. So the first thing is to share your app package directly. Then the second thing is the publish your app to your organization app catalog. And the third one is to publish your app to a public app store. So let's see the first one to share your app package directly. So you can choose to share your app package directly with users. This is particularly useful if your app is directed towards a limited audiences, so just a couple of teams or individuals, and during a development and testing of your app. So, second thing is publish your app to your organizational app catalog. So, if your app is applicable to a specific organization or if you have customized your app to meet an organization's specific needs, a tenant administrator can upload your app to the organization app catalog. This makes your app available for anyone in the organization to install, but does not automatically install it. Then the last one, the third one is to publish your app to the public app store. If your app is intended for all the Teams users everywhere, you can submit your app for publication in the public app store. You will need to go through a rigorous view process. When distributing your app, you need to take into consideration not just your desired audience, but the IT policies in place, the organization you want to share your app. So each organization has complete control over determining which apps will be uploaded to their organization app catalog and which apps are available to install from the App Store. Now let's see how to install apps. So installing apps in Microsoft Teams is context specific. So installing the personal app portion of your app, so the things that are scope for an individual user, does not install your app in a particular team and vice versa. So installing your app in a particular team does not install your app in any other teams. This means you should not ever assume your app is installed in all possible contexts. It probably is not. And organizations and administrators have complete control over who can install which app in which context. So you can also should not assume the user your app is currently interacting with has the permission to install your app in a different context. So, for better or worse, installing an app directly from an app package tends to be heavily restricted. So, if you choose to distribute your app by sharing your app package directly, you will want to make sure your users can install it. So, now let's see, when should you choose to build a custom Microsoft apps. So, the Microsoft Teams platform is a powerful, flexible platform for creating apps for Microsoft Teams. However, that does not mean it will fit in all the scenarios. So, let's see and let's discuss some key scenarios where Teams apps excel. So, let's see when to use a Teams app. So, Teams app shines when they are focused on enhancing collaboration and communication. Most successful Teams apps involve either some form of pulling information in from another system, having a conversation about it, and allowing users to take action about that information from directly within the Teams client, or pushing information to a targeted audiences based on event or action in an internal system. So next one is the encouraging a social interaction. So app that focus on encouraging social interactions between team members work also work well. So these are apps that sends polls, let people send feedback to each other, connect them together, or they just for fun. Team is a social platform. Custom social focus apps encourage your team to extend your company culture into collaboration space. So the next one is initiating and facilitating common business processes. So the teams can be effective platform for launching and facilitating the completion of common business processes. Things like creating and sharing a sales call report, tracking your time against a project, reserving common resources, submitting help desk request, and many more can make for effective Teams app. Quite often, there is already some other system responsible for completing this action. In those cases, using a Teams as a bridge to initiate the process and for communicating during the process can create an effective hybrid app. So next thing is surfacing some or all of your existing app. If you haven't got an existing web app, so then the SharePoint site or SPF extension, Power App, or other web-based application, it may take sense to enable some or all of it in a Teams. Just be sure to consider the context and scope carefully. So if you enable your navigation and form heavily website as a channel tab, it probably don't work very well. And the last thing is the personal app with tabs and bots. So one-to-one conversational bots are one of the more open-ended extensibility points within a Microsoft team. So the conversation is just between the bot and your user. You have the extensibility of including task module to simplify the collection of complex sets of your information, and you can combine them with personally scoped tabs. With this canvas, you can create a complete traditional apps experience with the Teams client. Then now let's discuss when to consider a different platform. There is already a good way to do that. If there is if you want to accomplish the task your potential tips apps is trying to perform, and or your users are already use the accomplishing it with an existing system, converting the experience to within the Microsoft Teams client may be difficult. So instead of, you should look for ways to make the existing application and Microsoft Teams works well together. It might take sense to send notifications to users or channels or initiate workflow from within the Teams, but complete the workflow in another app. So the next point is apps that are not designed to be used regularly. In general, app built for Microsoft Teams fit seamlessly into the Microsoft Teams client. This is really good for your users. Typically, they don't think about the things that they are using as an app. So so they just click a button, search for a things, and the correct card show up in the conversations. However, this means that in most of the cases, your app is not featured in any particular context. If your app is only designed to be used rarely, it can be easy for users to forget it is there. So most successful apps stay top of mind for users through the regular use. So it's all about the introduction.